revolutionary woman. In these days, she's a barefoot peasant, child on her back, wielding an AK-47. Of course, she made a uniform in cotton pajama trousers, petite sarong, sari, Mao jacket, jilbab, miniskirt or Levi jeans, covered in straw hat, veil, hijab, worker's cap or helmet. In every case, the winds of liberation blow through her fingers. Patriarchy, as with other forms of oppression, may hold the key to its own demise. Revolution is a serious thing, the most serious thing about a revolutionary's life. When one commits oneself to the struggle, it must be for a lifetime. Angela Davis. Revolutionary woman number 1, codename Angela.
Angela Wu was one of those very competitive, highly competent, achievement-oriented women, valedictorian of her graduating class, who went on to get her MBA and consequently placed in a large multinational corporation. Year after year, she worked diligently as a team member in middle management, observing gradually younger and younger white men bumped up to higher positions. Finally, perhaps as a crude test, she was called in to help with union contractual terms for factory workers in one of several corporate subsidiaries. When negotiations came to a halt, workers decided to strike for higher pay and benefits that by Angela's forecasts were probably reasonable. But being a team member, she remained silent until she walked onto the factory floor and discovered that most of the strikebreakers were poor Chinese immigrant women, much like her mother. To live in a colonized world is to know an international caste system. At the top, the white male ruling class. At the bottom, your colored mother.
Among poor people, there's not any question about women being strong, even stronger than men. They work in the fields right along with the men. When your survival is at stake, you don't have these questions about yourself like middle-class women do. Dolores Huerta. Revolutionary woman number 2, codename Dolores.
Dolores Deer lived in a suburban middle-class housewife life in a 3-bedroom house with her 3 children, dog, a petunia garden, and a salaried husband. The very paradigm of the perfect American family. One day, the salaried husband lost his job, became an alcoholic, and disappeared with another woman. Unable to make the mortgage payments, Dolores lost the house, squished her 3 kids in a cheap 1-room apartment, carted the smallest from babysitter to babysitter, and got a job as a waitress. At the end of the month, she partitioned her meager wage and tips into rent, food, and childcare. The emulation of the American dream is a great hoax.
Can I shake your hand? What for? I want to congratulate you. For what? For what you're doing for your people. correction. Yuri Kochiyama, conversation with Malcolm X. Revolutionary woman number 3, codename Yuri.
Kicked out of the house by a traditionally rigid and God-fearing father for losing her virginity to her then-boyfriend and becoming pregnant out of holy wedlock, Susan Sakai cast about for a different family, a different tradition, a different identity. Joining a so-called radical collective, she discovered in time that the collective had no expectations for the care of her child, and if she refused to bed down with any of the collective men, she was not fulfilling her familial duty to the collective welfare, to the greater good of the Asian American nation. Baby, they purred, you are beautiful, but you've got to stay back to push your man forward. So, she left, with her child, her lesbian lover, and a new name, Yuri. It may indeed be impossible to escape traditions embedded over many centuries in many civilizations, falling into the mistake of reenactment of one entrenched belief or another. The immediate answer is rebellion.
Better red than dead, Venado means on Alcatraz. Revolutionary woman number 4, codename Lanada.
Lanada Hayes, a mixed child, Black, Chicana, and Asian, found herself unaccepted by any community, Black, brown, or yellow. Her dark olive skin, her braided auburn hair, her oriental eyes, all conspired to confuse. Thus rejected, she became an Oreo, a coconut, a banana, and joined a white women's lib group to demand women's right to education, equal job opportunities, pretending that she too suffered from the boredom of the suburban bedroom. Until one day, she found herself employed and managed by one of the group's women, who spoke in a mincing and patronizing tone about how dating a white male colleague in the same company, who was in any case the enemy, was calling attention to herself as a Black woman and creating an unsisterly feeling among the other women. And this situation might, and this was completely confidential based on their long association as feminists, just might cost her job. Male chauvinism can be perceived as a form of racism based on a false belief in the biological inferiority of women. However, the oppression of the colored woman and the oppression of the white American housewife are not to be confused.
So I tell people, I don't want no equal rights anymore. I'm fighting for human rights. I don't want to become equal to men like them that beat us. I don't want to become the kind of person that would kill you because of your color. Fannie Lou Hamer. Revolutionary woman number 5, codename Fannie.
Fanny Chao was from a long and respectable line of Chinese matriarchs. This history was not a consequence of the transgressions of Confucian law, of the proper hierarchy by men over women, but a consequence of abandonment. Abandonment. Abandonment by men who went in search of the gold mountain. First sending home pieces of the mythic mountain, then finally sending nothing. This pattern of abandonment was repeated generation after generation. Each husband, lost to the brutality and submission of the coolies' labor, laying tracks, mining borax, laundering shirts. This one was blown to bits by dynamite. That one starved by vermin. This one convulsed in tuberculosis. that one lynched from his own cube. Fanny's father was knifed in a gambling dispute. Who's to blame for these lost men? Do you really believe in the bitter myth of the imperious matriarch who kept her dead man's testicles in a silver box under her silken pillow, removing the box from time to time to hear their soft tingle and toss?
Woman is the nigger of the world. Yoko Ono. Revolutionary woman number 6. Codename Yoko.
Yoko Smith married her high school boyfriend, Jack, right out of high school, and just before he was drafted and shipped out. Private Jack Smith to defend American freedom in Vietnam. In a period of less than 3 months, she changed from Miss Yoko Sakamoto to Mrs. Jack Smith to Mrs. Yoko Smith, widow. A photograph in the high school yearbook shows Yoko as homecoming queen in gold crown and pink gown, a reclining odalisque held aloft by the entire football team. After Jack's final salute into the patriotic heavens, each of his team buddies came around to console his grieving widow and to get some piece of the action that Jack had once kept for himself all senior year. By the time Yoko woke from her grief, she had tried to commit suicide, self-inflict an abortion that resulted in a miscarriage with permanent damage to her uterus, and was working through a drug rehabilitation program. Propped up on white sheets in a sterile hospital room, she flipped through Life magazine and stared in horror, humiliation, and self-recognition at the running figure of a naked, weeping girl stripped by napalm. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so too the ugly, but of what terror and atrocity.
Revolutionary sisters, like interchanging stars, floated into a small but growing constellation, tugged into variable patterns of revolutionary commitment. Healthcare, childcare, bilingual education, shelters, drug rehabilitation, counseling, co-ops, labor unions, political organization, party formation. Revolutionaries are not determined by sex.
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 Revolutionaries are not determined by sex.